Welcome to Empowered Living. Anne and Rachel here, two professional women with blended families of spouses, kids at home, adult children, grandkids, and running and growing a business. We walk with women to find the restoration of life, to understand God's purpose for women in caring for bodies, their mind through nutrition, fitness, and mental health, to live the life they have been given to the fullest that God wants for them. I'm Dr. Ann Lewis. I am a psychologist with over 20 years of experience in addiction, eating disorders, and developmental trauma. I'm also a certified personal trainer and nutrition specialist. I have 10 kids, and I am enjoying being able to live life to the fullest currently with a granddaughter.
That's amazing. And I'm Rachel Ferguson. I am a physical therapist by degree, but I also have a certification in nutrition and life coaching, and that is my passion. I have five amazing children and one grandchild myself, and my husband and I have a ministry and two businesses that we run together. And we just try our best to keep life going and living to the fullest. And that's what brought us together.
Yes, yes. We have a lot of kids between us. I just
We
realized
have a
as you said
lot.
that. Well, on today's podcast episode, we are going to, and we entitled this More Than a Number, Finding Our Worth in Christ. And this is an episode that's actually near and dear to me, as not only a woman, but as a Christian and as a specialist in eating disorders and as someone who is in recovery from an eating disorder myself. We're going to get into a lot of really cool parts. But on today's episode, we're diving into the topics of weight, body image, and self worth. So many of us struggle with seeing ourselves through God's eyes, instead, allowing the world standards to define us. I know that I've been there, Rachel. We've talked about this before. You've been there.
Yes.
But the truth of the matter is, we are more than a number on a scale. Our value is not found in our weight, in our appearance, or in society's expectation of us, but rather in the one who created us.
Right.
We're going to talk a lot today about the lies we believe about our bodies, about our own worthiness, how Satan deceives us into thinking we aren't valuable, God's
Mhm.
truth about our worth, and then practical ways of shifting that focus from the world standards to God's plan. The first part, and this again, this one is so exciting for me because I see so many women in my practice who are struggling with the number on the scale, especially as we get older. Rachel, I don't know about you, but as I have entered into that midlife, I'm now half century old,
Yeah.
that midlife range that I hear from lots of not just friends, but women that I work with who are talking about, but my weight won't budge anymore. What used to work isn't working. And
Mhm.
it seems like the things that we struggled with when we were in our 20s now gets exacerbated because now we feel like we have even less control over what's happening in our bodies. And before we get into the nitty-gritty details, Rachel, I wanted to kind of pop this over to you to talk to you about what has happened in your own personal walk and what it is that has kind of transformed about even the lies that you believe about your own body.
Yeah. Yes, we've talked about I even have recovered from an eating disorder as something that started in my teens. Um that again, I thought by controlling my weight, I can control situations in my life. And it really
Mm.
wasn't about the weight, it was what I could hold on to and control to personal family things that I was working through. But then ultimately, walking and navigating, I almost that half century age. Um, the changes from having kids to then again, now in this life where hormones are changing, like how do I manage this body that I've been given in a way that gives me the feeling that I feel good. And it was funny, I was just listening in the last couple of weeks, got to experience that, we until the mirror was developed, like the way we could look at ourselves go back hundreds of years, the only way we could see our image was in the water. And when you get a reflection in the water, that's broken and you start to get an outline of yourself, but we weren't created to actually overanalyze these bodies we've been given. It was the mirror coming
Wow.
forward that said, hey, let's now you look at you. It was about relationships years ago. It was about the other person just interacting with each other and not overanalyzing. Because the reality, most of the time people are looking at us, they're not looking at, oh, do I have dark circles or do I have an extra chin? Like I'll even speak to when I look in the mirror that when I am looking at myself, I see the way I was born in a round face and think, oh, I want a more chiseled face. Well, I can't take a number on the scale and make this a chiseled chin. It's just not going to happen. Or
Yeah.
when I look in the mirror, I see stick arms. And again, I can't jump to a scale and make change in that. And again, this is from walking from an eating disorder through life of having kids to now really trying to get this body to function and feel good as I move into this next century of life. It's not the number. It wasn't the number
Mhm.
when I had the eating disorder. It was my life was spinning out of control because of family issues. And I grabbed onto the number and I didn't eat well. To having children, and again, as a physical therapist, I get in discussions that we are moms that had beautiful, amazing children, and we've got tons of them. And this middle section that we look at, the reality is we can't make this middle section. Yes, we can change some of the number, but the reality is those muscles were stretched to hold those beautiful babies that we had, and then we
Yeah.
didn't use them.
Yeah.
The reality is they don't know how to function, and we have to learn how to pull them back together. And so, again, it's our number on the scale that we rush to is actually not, it could be muscle strength, it could be family situations, it could be I need to eat better, eat so that we can manage our hormones so that things can readjust. And it's the combination of all that. It's the image we see because of that silly mirror that we're
Yeah.
overcritical to ourselves.
Rachel, you mentioned that I want to go back to something that you said, and I want to ask you a little bit more about that. You mentioned that your eating disorder had begun when you were a teenager. Can you tell me why it is that in that space that you believed that the number was going to make things better for you? Like what was happening for you as a teenager that then your focus became on what was either happening to my body or what was happening on the scale?
Um, Again, this is a 40-plus-year-old now works through therapy. Yes, I've
Yeah.
done it to figure out why I was doing that then. Um, I really don't know why I landed on food. Like, I don't have any memory of someone telling me that I should be smaller. I was a teenager, so again, I think there was just a general, it was early high school, just general, maybe that's what's needed to fit in. Um,
Hmm.
I generally fit in with all different demographics. I had friends in all areas, so I didn't feel like I had to fit into a certain group. Um, but at the time, I was struggling with a relationship. My parents were divorced. I was living with my mother, and lots of situations that I've had to step into more um, what I would now call adulting than I wanted to. And so
Yeah.
eating became the piece that, like, I felt like I had control of something. Everything else
Yeah.
seemed out of control. And unfortunately, I just kept restricting more. I was anorexic. Um, and now I say it was the piece that I could change. I couldn't change a lot of things that were going on. It was the piece that I held on to change.
Yeah. And I want to kind of echo something that you're talking about because I think a lot of people who grow up in situations and either develop disordered eating or really struggle with this idea that I'm unworthy because or and as you said, don't belong. I'm looking for a way to kind of fit in or belong. And
Yeah.
what's interesting about this is that there in American culture in particular, what happens in media, be it social media, I mean, social media is kind of a flame right now, but
Yeah.
social media, advertisements, we are bombarded with messages about what our bodies should look like. Women in particular young
Yeah.
girls.
Yeah.
And what's happening a lot of times, and I think we intellectually know this, and teenagers kind of intellectually get this, but there are all these filters and there are all these modifications and airbrushing techniques
Yeah.
and
Right.
so images that we see of even real life people like celebrities in the media are often not only not only do I want to throw out there that they got lots of money to pour into themselves, but they have
Right.
shapewear and makeup artists and hair artists and millions of dollars that are poured into their outfits. And
Yep.
then they're edited on top of that.
Right.
And that is the image that we consume, be
Right.
it, and even multiple takes in movies.
Right.
And what's really interesting about this is that they actually did a study. Don't remember the exact study name, but they did a study in another country, and this is a third world country that didn't have exposure to media. And in this country, everybody there was a tribe that they were looking at was overweight. And part of that was because not everyone, but lots of women were overweight, because that meant then that their husbands were making enough and were good hunters and could
Uh,
provide for their wives. And they
yeah.
really they were very proud of having these very voluptuous rounded bodies.
Yes.
And they introduced media into this culture, and within a year their eating disorder rates look similar to what was in America at the time. And I think this was back in
Wow.
the 70s or 80s. So
Right.
that exposure that we get to the world and what it does to our concept of what we need to fit in is really remarkable, and very, I mean, like, this is how Satan works, right? He
Right.
loves taking the world's platform
Right.
and adding gasoline to it, and then implanting these thoughts into our heads about what it's going to be. And so we kind of think, like, I don't know about you, but usually when I'm looking at people in media, they always look happy. I never see,
Right.
very, very
The-
infrequently, do you ever see a really attractive, skinny, unhappy person,
right.
right?
Right.
They're always happy. And so we equate then happiness with this look, or all these wonderful things in life with this image. And so I see a lot of young people, and I struggled as well with myself with this, just this concept that I will finally be good enough when we get to that number. But what then happens when we hit that number?
Right. Right.
What
It's
you
amazing
said.
when I always like to talk. If we took, say, 5 people that all had the same number on the scale, we're not going to look the same in so many ways. Again, ultimately, our creator uniquely created us. There's no two individuals exactly alike, but 5 people that have the same number on the scale don't look alike.
Yeah.
And some have muscular build, some are slender, some have more fatty tissue on them, some do not. And so, if we want the number on the scale, but we can't even become similar to 5 people, and you could probably take 100 people. And again, are you going to pick the one person that, like, oh, yeah, I want their 150 when you're standing with the 150? Like, what's the number
Mm-hmm.
giving us? It goes
Mm-hmm.
back to, again, we're picking something about ourselves that we can focus on. And again, biblically, it tells us in 2 Corinthians 10:5, take captive our thoughts. Take captive our thought as to why that number is what we want. We have to look at that.
Rachel, you just did a lovely segue into our second part, and I want to and I want to see if we can platform this right now. That Satan's deception is actually our battle for our worth.
Yeah.
And one of the ways that we know, and the Bible tells us, this is biblical, guys, is that Satan actually can't make us act. He can only implant thoughts. That's
Right.
it, right?
Right.
And so if he makes us doubt our worth, he can keep us from living out God's purpose. So if
Right.
he communicates to us things like, you're not good enough, if only you lost more weight, you'd be lovable, or you'd fit in, or if you'd lost 10 more pounds. And Rachel, can I just share with the people that are listening, that a part of it, even us doing this, we were even having these thoughts like, are we good enough to give this message? At least I
Right.
was, right? Like,
Right.
am I going to look like this loony bins, either
Mhm.
psychologist or this crazy Christian that people don't want to listen to? And
Yep.
we have all of these. This is what Satan likes to do to us, right? He
Right.
wants us to doubt what God has put on our hearts, and the way that God has skilled us to give messages to people. Because this isn't you and I. Is what the
Yeah.
Holy Spirit wants to communicate. Because there may be something that we think is really profound that someone else is like, that's not that big of a deal, that
Right.
and something really small that really hits someone's heart.
Yeah.
But if Satan can keep us from believing God's truth over us and who we are by simply implanting a thought in our head that we then
Yeah.
pursue,
Yep.
he can keep us from acting on what it is that God has said to us.
Yes. Yes. He'll keep us busy. If he can't have us, he's going to work on keeping us busy.
Yes. And as in John 10:10, the thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it to the fullest, right? And so if
Yep.
Satan wants to steal our heritage from us, he wants to steal what it is that we were meant to do in the world and what God has purposed us for by telling us that we're not good enough or we're too fat or we're too whatever. And that works because we focus in on it, right? And
Yes.
I don't know how many people I've worked with, and I've worked with people that have both eating disorders as well as people that have body dysmorphia without disordered eating.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if we're chasing a number or we don't like the size of our nose or what our
Yeah.
face looks like or the
Right.
size of our bottom or whatever
Right.
that is. We don't like the size of clothes that we're in.
Yep.
Whatever it is, if we anchor to that and we fight to get that better, we're not fighting the right fight.
Right.
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 And I'm not saying that we can't, I just want to point this out. I'm not saying that we can't learn discipline around food and that we can't be disciplined around exercise or our bodies. What I'm saying is that if we get lost in it, we get obsessed over it.
Right. Right. And again,
And
it was never intended for us to focus on us. It's for us to turn around as believers in Jesus and share the good news. We're to go into the world and tell everyone about Jesus. And that takes the focus off us. We're supposed to go out. And you may not feel like you're supposed to be an evangelist. That's fine. As
Mhm.
mothers, as businesswomen, as the people that you interact with, that is trying to share that you trust Jesus and not focus on you. It's looking out. It's changing that I don't need the reflection in the mirror. I need to interact and have the relationship to the person in front of me.
Mhm. Mhm. And the command to take captive our thoughts anchors back to God and what his purpose is, right? So if we have a thought and we think, here's the trick. If we have a thought and we think it's us,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm just too lazy to do this. I'm just not disciplined. I'm just not whatever, fill in the blank.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not very confident. I'm just not a good speaker.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know how to do video editing. I'm just too fat to sing on stage. I'm just too old. I'm just too whatever this is, right?
Right.
Whatever the lie is that Satan gives to us.
Right.
If we follow that, and what's really cool about this, and I'd love to hear some of your take and some of your experience with this, but if we follow that, what neuroscience actually says is that the more that we focus on negative things, the more that we
Mm-hmm.
focus on our negative body image, on the way, the more that that map, if you will, this neurological map in our brain
Mm-hmm.
gets tightened. Kind of think of like a hike through a state park that gets walked
Mm-hmm.
on by hundreds, if not thousands of people over the years. The more that I focus on that, the deeper that trench in my brain becomes, then the easier it is for me just to believe it. The easier it is for me just to go that route.
Yes. I mean, it takes work to start to change those negative thoughts. And again, we go back to taking our thoughts captive. At any point, we've got to then recenter. Again, it changes the chemistry of our whole body. Our whole
Yes.
body changes its reaction because of the negative thought process, which in turn, again, pulls hydration from our body, changes our hormone approach to how it's processing our body, changes our metabolism because our body chemistry is creating a negative um, feeling around this thought that we're focusing on. Like we have to take it captive so that we again start to put in the natural chemicals our bodies can produce by putting in a positive thought. Like all of
Hmm.
those things over time actually make us sicker the more we focus on those negative thoughts.
Hmm. Well, and I wonder for you, just in some of the work that you've done with the patients that you serve, have you seen someone come in believing that they're just not good at something, or like, oh, I just can't do that movement because I'm too weak here, or I can't, whatever. And the people that come in with that belief that struggle to get better with physical therapy versus the people that come in with the belief that they're capable and then start to progress. Do you notice a shift even as a
Absolutely.
practitioner?
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. I used to think when I first started practicing that I didn't want to work with young children with disabilities. And actually, young children with disabilities, and the Lord blessed me with a child who actually has a disability. He was not born with all his fingers. And I said it was a blessing and a curse to have a mother that was a physical therapist. Because my cup is half full person, not my cup is half empty.
Uh-huh.
Because there's always the possibility. I always said the word in the word disability, there is ability. And
Uh-huh.
so I would stand, it is my soapbox that there is some ability. And that's the amazing thing with children that are born. Again, it goes back to comparison. Children that are born with a disability don't see restriction. They have joy. They this is the way they were made, and so then they work to figure out how to take this body and get it to work. Whereas somebody who actually was born with all their fingers, when they lose a finger, they actually are more negative and sad, which I understand. There's a grieving process to change, but they stay stuck longer and figuring out that they have still ability, because I believe as long as you have breath, you have purpose, and there's ability to do something, even the smallest, for this life that you still have to live out. And so it is amazing. Someone that never sees or compares themselves to someone else because this is the way they were born into, they make use of their body faster and find joy in the successes that come than someone that sees it as a restriction that's been taken away from them, and
Mhm.
they struggle to move forward.
I love that story, and that actually really resonates because, as God called us to have joy like children and to come to him like children, that innocence,
Yep.
and the gratitude for what it is that we have, and what Satan wants us to focus on, and is oftentimes what it is that either we don't have or what it is that we've lost. And
Yep.
you think about, Jesus with the fish and the loaves, and how, this little boy came to him with like a meager amount, and
Yep.
Jesus magnified it so much that it filled people's belly and there was leftovers, right?
Right.
And um that's, I think, where we go as human beings, is that we naturally go to, well, I would be more successful if I were only like this, or if I only
Mhm.
had this much money, or if I had this appearance or were this size. Of course I would do these things, but I can't do it because of this. And when you just, and I talk with people a lot of times, is children, we learn shame. We're not
Mhm.
born with shame. We learn it,
Right.
right?
Right.
And we know this. And I've got a 2-year-old granddaughter. She will strip naked just about anywhere that she wants to, because she got her shirt wet or her pants wet or something. Like, she naturally just wants to pull them off. And we're constantly like putting her clothes back on her. No, no, no. You got to keep, like, at least here,
Yep.
like, not at home,
Yep.
but like at least here,
Yep.
we got to keep this on. Right. And
Right.
she'll randomly be in our house and have wet her pull up, and she'll be butt naked at the door going, Gigi, I need a new diaper.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
No shame about her body, no
Yeah.
shame about her appearance, no
Yeah.
fear of judgment of other people or looking silly or stupid. She's
Yep.
living her life. And
Right.
so as children, we actually learn it through the world. We learn that there's something wrong with us. And
Right.
sometimes that's communicated accidentally, and sometimes it's communicated on purpose.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's communicated just passively through things that we
Mhm.
ingest.
Mhm.
Um, but in those ways, Satan constantly wants to trip us, right? He
Right.
constantly wants to steer us clear.
Right. Right.
So, did you have more to say about that?
Oh, I was just gonna say, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I can't ever say that word. Every time I try to say it out loud, I can read it. Anyway, the thief comes to steal, to
Kill
kill, and to
and
destroy
destroy.
us.
Yep.
And so again, he's trying to steal our joy. He's trying to kill the passion inside of us. Um, that's the enemy. He is always after us. And we just have
Mhm.
to, again, recognize what are we being stopped from doing and how can we turn it, refocus so that we keep stepping forward.
Yeah. So that brings to the third point, and this is perhaps my favorite point of all: God's truth about our worth.
Yeah.
And I was listening to another author speak about he's got a PhD in mathematics, and he was talking about patterns in the world and how amazing things were, that there were series of sevens over and over and over again as evidence of God's handiwork, because God loves patterns, right? And everything down to our unique fingerprints, to
Yes.
DNA, things that are
Yep.
uniquely us,
Yep.
that God created each of us with so much intention that even down to our very genetic makeup and our fingerprints, no one can replicate. And you think about that, and I don't know about you, but when I'm old school, but when I was a kid, we had landlines and there wasn't a limit of numbers. So you could go and get a new
Mhm.
number, right? And now
Yep.
that we have cell phones, they're starting to create new area codes, and you can't, like, if you're in a certain area, it's no longer just that area code because they're running out of numbers.
Yeah.
And I think about this because I think about numbers as kind of being this, like, I get it, we're limited in the digits that we have, the total number of digits. But to me, that just was mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And to think of how amazing our God is to make us with so much intention that we cannot
Right.
be replicated, that our DNA and our fingerprints are not going to be easily mistaken for another one of us.
Yes.
And so I deal with, of course, in the world of emotions. And I hear people a lot of time talk about things that they get angry about or hurt over or passionate about, and other things that don't bother them. And one of the cool parts that I like to walk people to is a place that if you feel it, it is your responsibility. So if you're exposed to something and it deeply impacts you, to a place that you get angry or want justice, or not vengeance, but justice, right?
Hmm.
Or you want to show up in compassion, you want someone to do something, you are that person, right?
Yeah.
That is why God has created us. He created
Yeah.
us to feel things, because that's one of the ways the Holy Spirit can communicate to us, because he needs us to do things.
Right.
And that value that we have isn't tied to our weight or appearance, but the fact that we are made in his image and made for his purpose, not our
Right.
purpose.
Right. Right. That purpose to share that passion outside of us. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, Rachel, because I know that you have multiple businesses and multiple ministries, how you came to a place of, I think about just having even one ministry and one platform, how you came to a place of being able to give in so many different ways.
That was definitely a work in progress to understand where God wants to use me, and many avenues. So my husband and I actually own a diner. We love walking with people through understanding finances, and we use that as facilitators of financial peace and walking with people in relationships. So we're a blended family, um, and having to navigate life post divorce, which we had not wanted to do. We feel it's very important to, again, lay down ground pieces to understand relationship. And we use that through facilitating with a program called Symbis. Um, but, and of being a physical therapist and life coach and nutrition coach, that seems
All
like
the
many,
things.
all the things, plus all of the children. And we have a passion for walking with young adults, again, to see their purpose, to see that they aren't just um, insignificant, that we love working with kids in the foster kid system and aging out, because of laying that groundwork. They have purpose. They're here. And though their childhood has not been what they had hoped it to be, it was something that, again, is the piece that they can keep going forward when they have someone come alongside them. All that to say, what I've come to find out is I have that soapbox passion of you were created on purpose. And if you just had a moment to see what God has put inside of you, everybody has that deep passion that you talked about, and that
Mhm.
it's right there. You felt it. You know that there is something that you can get really worked up, and I'm holding myself back because, again, you could hear the animation, like my arms start going, because we all have purpose. And again, that broken child that, again, went to food control, that became an eating disorder, knew God wanted me, and ultimately just felt the Lord say, I have purpose for you. And the great pastor and author Rick Warren, his book dropped in my life at that time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Um,
The purpose-driven
I
life.
can't think of it. Rick Ward's What's Purpose Driven Life? Thank you.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Um, and it was that I had purpose, but my purpose is walking with people to see purpose. And again, it started with physical therapy, and then it went into understanding we have to have food to fuel our body, because deep down inside of us, we all have that fire. There is a fire in you that, again, when you stop spinning, the devil stops having you spin. And a lot of times, whether it's therapy or coaching or just a good friend, you can sit down and feel like, oh, yeah, there's something inside of me that I need to share. And that's it. I love helping people reveal their purpose. And again, that's over a gamut of different areas.
Yeah, I want to speak to this as a clinician, because I have seen this in a lot of different ways. But what I want to speak to is also as American, the way that we word things and the things that we in our culture want to focus on aren't actually some of the things that we need to focus on, right? So when you introduce yourselves to someone, usually somebody says, "Well, what do you do for a living?" And you end up talking about your role instead of about who you are. And in other cultures, that's actually considered incredibly offensive,
Mm,
because what they want to know about us is what our character is.
yeah.
And, you think about when we're describing a friend, most of us don't
Yeah.
lead with, "My friend's drop dead gorgeous," or
Mhm.
"I really love how amazing her arms look."
Right.
Right? We lead with things like, "She's the kindest, sweetest, most loving,
Right.
compassionate person I've met," right?
Correct. Yep.
We label people with the characters. That's what we love about them.
Yep.
Speaking about my husband, I love that he's a great protector. He's very kind and he's very good natured. And of
Yes.
course, he has bad qualities. We all have bad qualities too,
Yeah.
right? But what I love about him, and of course, I think he's very handsome, but I don't start with that. Like, that's
Right.
so far down on the list
Right.
because of who he is, that
Right.
and we need this as human beings. But a lot of us, what we want to get attached to is what we look like, or how long our hair is or isn't,
Right.
or what the scale says, or what size of clothing that we get into. But that isn't what we love about other people.
Right.
I have never met a person in my life that describes their partner or their best friend and says, "I really love that they're 120 pounds."
Right. If they even know the number, because they've
Exactly.
never asked the number.
That, because we don't care, right?
Right.
But we get lied in, we get this lie from Satan that that's what other people are going to see about us, or that's what makes us worthy.
Right.
And it's so counter to even how most of us will operate, even people that struggle with this.
Right. 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 It's not how we connect. It goes back to that reflection in the water. We
Yep.
weren't meant to spend time analyzing this. God didn't give us the mirror. The mirror was man made. It was building relationship. And that's what we all want. Going
Yep.
back to, we talked about my wanting to fit in somehow, to take hold of something when I was a teenager. It's relationship that we're looking for. It's attuning to people that make us automatically feel loved and worthy. Again,
Hmm.
ultimately, we have to understand and spend time with the one who created us to know our worth is outside of whatever any human's going to say, because every human's going to fail. Every human has problems that they're not going to live up to someone's expectations. We're human. We're going to always
Absolutely.
mess up this side of heaven. So we have to understand who God's called us to be, who he sees us as, beautifully and wonderfully made, built in
Hmm.
his image, like literally all the way down to the depth of our soul and our cells. We have a protein that holds our cells together that is in the shape of a cross. It's called laminin.
Mm.
It is absolutely amazing. The Lord, as we accept him, he wants all of us to accept him, but he's created in us, whether we're accepting him or not, a protein that holds our cells together called laminin that looks like a cross.
Wow.
And we have to then have relationship with him and then connect in relationship where we are valued and accepted. So again, learning some boundaries along the way to
Yeah.
not strive for those wrong relationships, whole nother podcast session, but it's it's understanding that it's relationship. It's not about what we look like or the number on the scale. God loves us. He wants a relationship with us. He has purpose for us. He values what we do and he forgives us. In relationship with Jesus, he has forgiven us for what we did the day before. We have to talk to him, but then he wants us to go forward. He wants us to have a
Mhm.
relationship and help others go forward.
Well, and I believe that when we start seeing ourselves as God sees us, and I believe that about other people as well, when we start seeing others as God sees them,
Yes.
we can begin to walk confidently in our purpose as well as others' purpose without being held back by everyone else in the worldly expectation.
Yes.
And Mel Robbins, actually, I listened to her book and some of her podcast stuff. She's got some really great insight. But one of the things that she said is that, you know, we spend a lot of time trying to fix our appearance or what it is that we say or do based upon fear of others' rejections or negative thoughts about us, but yet
Yeah.
we have negative thoughts about people all the time, right? And I pondered this myself because I was like, I'm a pretty kind person. I'm pretty
Yeah.
compassionate. I do this for a living. And then I went through my head and I thought, actually that's pretty accurate. I was humbled to admit, like, every single one of my family members, including my precious little granddaughter who's nearly perfect, I have had some negative thought about at some point
Yeah.
in time. Now I'm not going to
Yeah.
share those thoughts, right? But
Yeah.
like I've
It's
got
fine.
this like these random like internal judgmental thoughts that will come
Yeah.
up, and every
Yeah.
now and then it's like, really, you're wearing that? That's
Right.
what you thought this morning, right?
Right.
And then it goes away. And unfortunately, I don't say it
Yeah.
out loud, but
Yeah.
I can't control those thoughts. They just kind of come. Now
Right.
I can control what happens, and I can control how much I focus on them,
Right.
but I can't even control some of my own thoughts. So what makes me think that I'm going to control someone else's thoughts?
Right. Right.
Right. And so one of the examples I love to give, because I sing in our worship team, and I sing a lot in my car because it's the only time that I have a lot of like free time and
Practice.
alone
Yeah.
time. That's right, right. And I'll be belting out and really getting to a song, and I'll pull up next to somebody. And I used to be really cautious, and like sit there and I'd like either have my phone up against my cheek while
Yeah.
I'm singing.
Yeah.
And I finally got to a place where I'm like, you know what? My goal is to make someone laugh. Like, if you
Yeah.
love the fact that I'm singing out in my car and it makes your morning and you laugh about it all the way home or all the way to
Yeah.
work, I
Right.
made your day.
Right.
And
Right.
so now I'll just belt out in the car. And if you look, and every now and then I catch somebody who's like really cracking up or like will give me like, like a thumbs up or something. And it totally shifts how I feel about what I'm doing, because I'm in a place of worship, even in my
Yeah.
car, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
why should I modify my worship for someone I'm likely never going to run into again?
Right. Like we just have to own joy. Like again, you're in joy in that moment. Like we have to be
Yeah.
okay. Like that's not a bad thing to be in joy. And I loved saying to people, like those are the moments, whether you're worshiping or you're just talking out loud to Jesus, like he's the co-pilot in the car with you. Like he's your
Yes.
navigator and you're just telling him everything. And if you get animated or you want to be mad or you want to cry and someone drives around and is like, what is going on? They're like talking to no one. It's fine. How often
Yeah.
are people talking literally to people with their AirPods in the grocery store and you're like, hell, wait, you mean, oh, they're not talking to me. Fine.
That's right.
Talk to Jesus in the car or in the shower. It's fine. If we can make it comfortable that we're going to walk through the grocery store staring and scrolling or listening and talking to somebody else, why can't we make it just as crazy to be in joy in worship or talking to the Lord beside you? Why is this okay in the grocery store where you're not talking to any of the general world around you? You're talking to somebody on your phone, but we can't make it okay to do it otherwise.
Hmm. Well, and I love how you keep kind of setting us up for the next point. Practical ways, the fourth point is practical ways to shift our focus.
Yeah.
And one of the things that is hard and has been hard for me in my walk of faith throughout the years, and I'm not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, is cultivating that time with God.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to me because look at everything that God has done.
Yeah.
That even if the only gift that we ever received was his life for our sins.
Yes.
That is more than enough, but yet he gives abundantly to us over and over and over again.
Right.
And yet, I don't know about you, but for me, sometimes I'm like, I'll get to that later, and then later doesn't come, or I'll
Right.
start that Bible study. And
Yeah.
learning how to practice that, you think about the time that we might check in with our kids, and it might be only 5 or 10 minutes. I got older kids, so they don't need a lot of me. They
Yeah.
got teenagers.
Right.
We got teenagers. We're a little bit salty. Please check in with your younger kids more frequently than this. But right, like,
Yes.
um,
Yes,
being
if they're
able
that quiet, something's going on.
to,
Whether it's a
yes,
toddler or a teenager, we know it's quiet and you haven't checked in, something is up.
that's right. But these moments that we long for the day that are about this relationship, that what God wants, and he is so, and I am always so humbled, because
Hmm.
sometimes I struggle to cultivate that time, and then when I do, God's right there. It's like,
Right.
and I get this message over and over, I've been waiting for you. Like, I've
Right.
been here the whole time. And to think,
Right.
the maker of the universe is there for me at the drop of a hat,
Right.
like just when I need him, but also when I worship him. Like,
Right.
I don't know another single soul that is going to be there for me like that at any point in my life.
Right. Right. And again, this comes back to that moment in the Garden of Eden when everything was provided and they just had one thing they had to not do, and that was go eat from the tree. But they did, and that brought this fallen, broken relationship with the Lord, that the Lord created us to do nothing but worship him. He was going to provide everything. He still provides everything, but now we have a different approach. And that's where shame came in. And that's where guilt came in. And that's where the devil took a hold. And it became this, we're supposed to have works. And again, if you look Old Testament, there was works. The Israelites had processes. But when Jesus came on the picture, the works were gone. The
Hmm.
Lord literally created us at the beginning to worship him, then became the works, and then ultimately the Lord created a process that it's not works. Accept Jesus, spend time with Jesus, and he just wants to give us all the things, but we have to take and spend time in that relationship. And whether it's little pieces, like if you want, his presence, and maybe you get to experience it just on Sunday, but the words are like, if you're just plugging in your phone once a week, how is your phone going to function? And if we're
Yeah.
just plugging in once a week, how are we getting filled up enough? And again, if you just do once a week, that's fine. Spending time worshiping the Lord once a week is fine. This is not judgment. I'm
But
just saying the process is worshiping him. And if you do it more frequently to fill up and get empowered from your creator and being in his presence, you feel
yes,
more peace.
mic drop there. Just what you said. I want to echo, and not a form of judgment. One time is better than no times.
Yeah.
And as a therapist and as someone who is a personal trainer and does a lot of strength training work and a lot of work, just what self-discipline is actually cultivated from is consistency and repetition, not
Yeah.
perfection,
Right.
right?
Right.
God doesn't want us to be perfect. He just wants us to work on that. And the more that we do something, the faster it gets ingrained in us. And
Yep.
the bigger benefits that we get, the more consistent, the more repetition that we can get. So
Right.
if once a week we're going to work out at the gym, that's great. That's better than no times a week.
Right.
You go 3 times a week, right? And I'm not saying like we don't have to go to the gym 7 days. We do need to
Right.
check in with Jesus 7 days, right? Like,
Right.
but the more often that we can practice and lean into God's truth over us and
Yes.
really work on accepting it,
Yep.
the faster it goes. And I
Right.
do want to speak to that accepting piece, because I work with people on self-esteem issues and self-confidence and learning their worth. And I get a lot of people who fight me.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So when we identify, like, what does that say about you? And I work with a lot of learning how to be confident in your body and learning how to undo some shame
Right.
resiliency work. And even when they can identify, it means that I'm compassionate. Or like, even when some people, when they can identify that there's something positive about themselves, they so desperately don't want to believe that there's something good about them that they cannot even say the word. Like, even
Right.
when I know and they know, and I know what they're thinking, they're like, well, I can't say that I'm kind because there are moments that I'm not kind.
Right.
We aren't perfect.
Right.
God
Right.
didn't
We're
call
not
us
on
to
a
be
hundred
perfect.
percent scale. Like,
Right.
I love getting people to start to quantify it of where are you on that 100%. We can't ever. Jesus is the only perfect person. So
That's
where
right.
are we? How much time do we spend in these negative thoughts in a day? If 75% of your day is more negative than positive, we got to shift. We got to get, more towards that, moving past the 50% again, but it's movement. It's
Hmm.
measurable. I love setting smart goals. Um, but even one of the things the Lord asks us, and he references in the Bible, is tithing. And again, tithing
Hmm.
is around money in the Bible, but it's hit me in spending time with the Lord. If we look at this out of our 24-hour day, if we considered tithing our time to our Creator, again, in the big picture, the more we empower and plug in with Him, the more we reach the fruit of the Spirit. It's just naturally, the more you spend time either in worship or reading your Bible or just time listening and spending time with Him, you feel better. Your approach looks different. It comes off of you. You feel valued. You feel loved. And if we would stop and go, how much have I actually spent time with Him? If He's the last piece on my day, I'm tired. And again, even if it's the last piece, fine. But if
Hmm.
it's 2 minutes and you're plugging in your phone for 2 minutes, what are you getting out of that?
Yeah.
Versus if I were to tithe 10% of my day, and I know that seems crazy, 2 hours, 2.5 hours with the Lord, but even throughout the day, from worship to a devotional to just talking out loud to your co pilot, if you just spent 2 hours time with him, when he really doesn't need us to do anything, he
Yeah.
needs us to do nothing. He truly will line up things. He's working everything, the
Just
job that
show
we
up.
have, the life that he's been given, the family that he's got us around. He's actually helping guide us in that straight path. The more time you spend with him and
Yep.
in the word, you start to see that come about.
Hmm. And the more time that we lean into his truths about us, right? So
Yes.
if we say, we're fearfully and wonderfully made, and they're like, everybody but me, or
Yeah.
we were perfectly made. I mean, except for my thighs.
Right.
That's that's
Right.
not how God made us. And
Right.
again, I want to discriminate and kind of separate two separate things here. It isn't
Yeah.
that we weren't fearfully and wonderfully made. If we want to change something about us or manage something differently, that's
Yep.
okay. But that is not the anchor of who you are.
Correct.
And that can't be the thing that we are pursuing with reckless abandon. It has to be our relationship with Jesus. It
Right.
has to be on that connection to him, because the closer we get to him and the more connected we, like, all the other things kind of fall in line. It's like
Yep.
it's some of what you're talking about, like working out a budget. Like, if we actually do a budget and we have a guide in mind and we start doing the steps, like, all of the stuff kind of falls in line when we start
Yes.
abiding simply by the principles,
Right.
right? And
Right.
not perfectly, and I'm not saying it's
No.
not hard.
No. Right.
Yeah. So um we have to be able to honor that. We also have to be able to practice it. The other thing that I want to point out as a part of these practical tips is that we have to practice on gratitude for our body. We get so
Yeah.
focused on comparing our bodies to other
Right.
people.
Right.
Well, I don't look like this person. Well, my chin doesn't look like this person. I don't have great hair like this person. I don't have
Right.
whatever it is that you were doing, right?
Right.
And instead of focusing on what we don't like, thank God for what our body allows us to do. And that is a huge focus shift. Again,
Mm-hmm.
two separate, it's not saying that you can't work on stuff. That's not at all
Right.
what I'm saying. What I'm
Right.
saying is, like, if I can love my legs because
Right.
they have walked me into 50 years of life and
Right.
have run and cycled and done workout classes
Yep.
and held babies,
Right.
gardened, like,
Right.
I have appreciation for what it is that my legs have provided me.
Right. Well, and I like to point out that, there's a saying where we have to be grateful for what we have because there's somebody else walking
Mhm.
around that doesn't have
Yes.
what you have, whether it's the job you have or the body you have. Again, you stated my legs got me to walk around, but there's people that don't have legs to walk around. And I'm not trying to be gruesome or
Yeah.
morbid, but the reality is we have to stop and recognize what we don't see value in, others are so wishing they had the opportunity to have.
Oh, such a good point.
And we have to realize we have been given breath. Take the moment the last time you were ill, because we don't value our health until we're
Yeah.
sick. And again, we are Midwestern women who just came out of this long, cold winter this year. And
So brutal.
so many people had longer than normal illness because, again, many factors, the environment, just the long,
Hmm.
dark lack of vitamin D, let alone whatever we might be choosing to put inside ourselves. But, even sunshine, we have amazing sunshine. You have sunshine radiating behind you. Like the
Yes.
gratitude of we just came out of a long, dark winter. We have sunshine. It
Hmm.
lifts our spirits. We have to stop and do a small reflective. We have this and it could go away in a moment,
Yes.
or we came through that illness and now we can do stuff again. We have to have gratitude for what we've got.
And some of what you're describing, a different podcast episode, but I love talking about feelings and labeling them. What you're actually referencing is what joy is, because joy and
Hmm.
happiness are they're very similar emotions, but they're not the exact same emotions. And
Right.
joy is sustainable. It's when you see that person who has lost a loved one or has gone through some major tragedy in life or is having some chronic illness that they're struggling with, and they can still show up and lift other people up and still show up and worship and have a smile on their face. That
Yep.
is joy,
Yep.
right? And we get that from our relationship with Jesus. We get that from all the things that we have been given. And so then when we go through hardship or when something doesn't kind of work for us or when we're struggling with something, we can still show up because we have joy in the Lord and we have joy in what it is that has been given to us. But knowing that there are other seasons around the corner, right? That there's like,
Right.
yes, winter, there's a lot of things about winter that aren't great, but we can enjoy the season and we can also know that there's spring and summer around the corner.
Right. Right. Again, even choosing to find joy in the winter months. Again,
Yes.
sometimes when they go on a long time, it's harder, but it's what was great. Again, things go dormant so that they can sprout and grow again. Like there is a reason the bugs actually die more. We have less mosquitoes when winter lasts longer and it gets cold enough. Like there is joy to that piece, but we have to intentionally choose to look for it.
Hmm. Final note on
Yes.
what practical steps that we could do. We can also surround ourselves with encouragement and people
Yes.
that are encouraging. And I
Yep.
cannot underestimate this enough. You know, that when we are around people that are highly pessimistic or very critical on a regular
Yes.
basis, and for some of us, this might be our parents, and
Right.
that's hard.
Right.
I just want to
Right.
put this out. But giving ourselves the space of being around people that not only pour into me, but then I can pour into you. And so when we surround ourselves with people that have that joy, that have that connection with Christ, that have that ability to love themselves, even when their body no longer looks like their 20-year-old body,
Yeah.
um, even when not everything on their body is perfect, those are the people that we need to surround ourselves with. And
Right.
I'm not saying that you have to avoid critical people,
Right.
but we do need to make sure that there's an offset of people that are really encouraging and positive around us to make it
Yeah.
easier for us to learn how to live in that space.
Right. And it's taking the steps again to understand, yes, you can accept people that love you like that, people that aren't judgmental. Again, it's starting to carve out that I have to work to get their attention. And if it was your childhood relationships and you're striving to get the childhood connections to happen, the Lord is amazing and has put people in your life that do accept you without ever looking at how your hair is, or they will pick you up when your hair looks the worst and you've got, even as adults, we have moments where the
Oh yeah.
bodily fluids are coming out of
Oh
us.
yeah.
But we have those friends that will come alongside you and hang on to you and hold you just like we would hold our children or grandchildren. Like they're there. We just have to make sure that we're being open to it, that the
Mm-hmm.
Lord does want us to have those relationships that care for us unconditionally. Time with
Mm-hmm.
Him, He reminds us of His unconditional love, but He has also put people in our lives that we need to go towards, that give us life and joy. And we still may be working out those pieces of understanding why we can't have it in our childhood relationships. That's a whole nother piece, but
Yep.
willing to say, I don't have to work on that all the time.
Yep.
I can have moments in it, but I'm allowed and should have moments more in that joy and peace.
Yep. Cultivating boundaries. Oh, you
Yes.
preached on that one. That was that. Yes. Yes. Any other words that you have before we close up for today?
No, again, I think the most is we were created to know we were loved. We have to spend time with the Lord to know we are loved and begin to understand that we are more than just a number. We are more than just the shape of who we are, because we are just to turn and be the reflection to those relationships around us. Having relationships that give us the support that
Mm-hmm.
empowers us to keep going forward. And that's what we came together. We hope this is empowering all of you to turn away from just this that you want to focus on and turn and look at what God wants you to do for all those people that you love, no matter what hat you wear, whether it's wife or mom or grandma or business person. It's what's in front of me and how can God want to use me just to smile. It could just be a smile. It could be a
Yes.
hug to somebody. It
Yes.
could be just an acknowledgement of saying, hey, you're doing a good job. That's the pieces. That's okay. Our purpose can be so simple. He just wants us to look out. And just by looking out and being who we are is how God's made us. He needs us to
Absolutely.
go out and share that peace.
Yeah, God has a plan for each of us that is so much greater than any number on a scale and so much greater than any of us could possibly ever imagine. What it is that He has in store for us and what it is that He created for is so much more beautiful than we even have any idea of. So, last note, walk confidently in the truth that you are loved, chosen, and created for a purpose.
I just want to
Ephesians,
share one last verse.
go for it.
For we are God's handiwork, created in Jesus Christ to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Ephesians 2:10.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank
Yeah.
you. That summed it up beautifully. All right. Well, it was
We
good
look
talking to you
forward
today.
to doing this again. Seeing you
Yes.
all again soon.
All right, guys. So, what are your thoughts on this? Have you ever struggled with body image? And how has God helped you through it? Let's continue the conversation. Message us and let's encourage one another in truth. We love you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. If this is helpful, give me a like, follow me, or subscribe for more.